Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Joe. It's my first video on this channel. I just recently got funded, so that's why I'm starting this channel. I told myself as soon as I get funded, I'm gonna start making a channel on YouTube for people that are in the same skill bracket. Because I know when I started, I didn't really have any videos that were catered towards, I guess, more so beginners or intermediate traders. I've been trading for about a year now, and I've learned a lot of things. So I just figured I'd, make this channel to share with you guys, and so you guys can have someone that's not miles ahead of you or miles below you. You have something kind of in the middle to be able to, help you get through those, I guess, stepping stones that sometimes you can go on YouTube and not really find any answers to. um, but yeah, I'm just gonna do this thing in one take. It's gonna be my first video, so I'm just gonna kind of go with it. If the audio's bad, I'm sorry. If it isn't the greatest quality video, it's just just figured just get something out there for you guys. So basically this video is going to be what I did wrong within my first year. Pretty much kind of what slowed my progress down, what inhibited me from taking about a year to get funded. So we're just going to go right into it and go into number one. And the first thing I did wrong was sticking to one strategy. What do I mean by that? Because some people say, oh, pick a strategy and stick to it. Well, that's absolutely true. But when you're a beginner, I feel like you should explore. You should look at many different strategies, get many different ideas about what you like to, what works with your brain, what clicks. Are you an ICT trader? Are you an order flow trader? Are you support and resistance? Are you supply and demand? Yada yada. um, in reality, it's pretty all, it's all pretty much the same thing. But with some of the mentors that I had early on, they always would say, stick to one strategy, and they're definitely correct, but they would just kind of give you their strategy, and then they would make you feel obligated to stick to it. So I remember for me, I was trading ICT, the super basic ICT strategies that everyone knows about. Um, I would trade them, and I would feel like obligated to stick to it, even though it didn't really sit right with me. I just kind of kept putting my foot down and said, no, like one day this is going to click. And it didn't click. And, eventually I got fed up with it, and I said, okay, I'm going to make a switch. So I started just to try really everything. And like I said, one thing I noticed very quickly is that these strategies, they offer pretty much the same win rate, depending on what RR multiple you trade with. And they're all pretty much the same thing, just packaged into different like categories, I guess you could say. They're all very, very similar. They all offer the same RR, win rate, stuff like that. They're all profitable. It just comes down to you. So that was one big thing that kind of slowed my progress down, is I didn't really explore as much as should have when I first started. I kind of stuck to one thing, um, and rolled with it until I got fed up with it. What I want you guys to do, or what I would recommend you guys to do, is just kind of explore. I wouldn't get too caught up in the fact that, oh, I'm undisciplined. I keep switching strategies, because especially when you're first starting, that's not the case. You need to be able to explore and see what works best for you. Once you find what works best for you, then stick to it. But how are you going to know what works best for you if you don't explore, right? You see what I'm saying? Okay, yeah. So that's number one. Sticking to one strategy. Big no-no. In my book, you could be different. Okay, number two is sharing with too many people. Yeah, so basically one thing I did was I was super excited when I first started trading. I wanted to tell anyone and everyone, don't do that. Like, because what's going to happen is you're going to be 2 or 3 months into trading. You're going to tell somebody that doesn't really give a fuck. They just care about the money. And they're going to be like, oh, how much have you been making? And then if you don't want to lie, I mean, some people lie about it, but that's pretty weird. But if you don't want to lie, you'd be like, oh, I'm not making any money yet. Or, oh, I'm still learning. Or, oh, yada, yada, yada. And then you're going to be like, okay, they're just going to be, in one ear, out the other, and they're not really going to give, a fuck about, like, what you have to say, because you're not making money. Because, oh, if you're not making money, then you're not doing anything right, is probably what they're thinking. Um, so yeah, what I would recommend is just tell as little people as possible. Obviously, still tell people, like, I'm very grateful to have a family that, is very supportive about this. So I told my girlfriend, but like other people that really didn't, weren't in my circle as much, telling them really never give me a good, I guess you could say, a good answer. It always can make me feel kind of crappy. So, you know, like, I think the best thing you could do when you're first starting is just kind of keep it as much to yourself as you can. It's a different story once you're making a ton of money and you have all this information and you have proof of work, right? But when you're first starting, you're not going to have proof of work unless you're super smart and gifted. But this is for majority of people. They're not going to be making a ton of money, if any money, right when they first start. So that's number two. Number three is revolving your life around trading. So I put my life. I meant to say your life. Well, you know what I mean in general. So, anyways, when I first started trading, I didn't really have much. I was getting fed up with my job. I was making some money on the side, so I felt like, okay, like let me quit my job. I'm glad I did that, but I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody. Um, it depends on like your personal life. Like I still live at home, so I was able to, work a part-time job and, pretty much revolve trading around my life. But if you're not in that situation, then you're not going to be able to do that, and I don't recommend you do that. But like I said, revolving my life around trading. What do I mean by that? So making trading your personality. Every time somebody talks to you, you got to be talking about trading. Um, Studying every single day for multiple hours a day. Like, don't get me wrong, you guys are probably gonna listen to this and do it anyways, but which isn't, I guess, it's not a good thing, but let's put it this way, it's not the worst thing to study all day, but you know, I guess don't let trading consume your life because when trading consumes your life, then you're going to pretty much just you're when things do come up that don't revolve around trading, then you're gonna have no idea how to interact with let's just say somebody's talking to you at the gym, right? And you don't want to make it seem like your whole personality is about trading, um, and you don't want to oh, if they're not a trader, I can't talk to them, or if they're not trying to financially you know support themselves, with like, learning a skill or starting their own business, like, oh, I can't talk to them because I'm better than them. Like, don't put yourself on a pedestal just because you know how to trade or you're learning how to trade. Um, that's one thing I kind of did wrong was I felt like, oh, I couldn't talk to people if they weren't, if they weren't business owners or they were like I had like basically what I'm saying is like I had a very big head um, on my shoulders, right? It's because, it was all the beginner's luck and stuff when you first start trading. You're winning, you're not thinking about it as much, and you think, oh, I'm super good at this, and then you just get a huge ego. Just don't do that. Like I said, studying with trading is good, but and when you first learn, all you're gonna want to do is, you know, see how much information you can cram into your brain at one time to speed up the process. But you're gonna burn yourself out more likely than not. It's one of those things that I could tell you that you shouldn't do that, and you're gonna do it anyways, and it's just something that you just kind of have to learn, as you go. Everyone does it. So yeah, number three, just don't revolve your life around trading. Try to like, you know, still have the things you enjoy in life present. Just don't make it all about trading. Number four, not submitting to time. So what I mean by this is I pretty much what I did was I tried to cram as much information and learn as much information as I possibly could in the shortest amount of time because I didn't want to accept the fact that this was going to take quite a long time to get good at, right? It's been about a year and I'm still not great at it, right? Once I kind of started to tell myself that it was going to take way longer than I expected, right? Then I started to allow myself to make mistakes and not feel bad about them because every time I used to make a mistake, I used to feel like it was setting me back like 100 paces, right? Which isn't good either. When in reality, you're making a lot of progress when you make mistakes, right? You're making the most progress when you're making mistakes because you know exactly where you did wrong and you know exactly what not to do next time. Um, and when you don't submit to time, you don't allow yourself or you don't feel like you should be making mistakes, right? Because you think, oh, like I don't have much time. The mistakes are setting me back, yada yada. No, actually, the mistakes are propelling you forward more than you think, right? Because if you don't make mistakes, then how are you gonna know what to fix? And then if you don't know what to fix, then how are you gonna become a better trader? See what I'm saying? So yeah, so not submitting to time was probably the biggest thing, right? I couldn't accept the fact that this might take 4 years, right? Hopefully it doesn't, but it might. And if it does, it does. Because at the end of the day, trading is what I like to trading is what I love to do, and it's more than likely something that you guys love to do as well. So you just got to be able to just say, okay, it's gonna take us however long it's gonna take, and you can't be upset if it takes several years, right? So yeah, not submitting to time is something that's gonna snowball into other things, right? It's gonna bleed into other areas of weakness in your trading, right? And it's just not gonna be a good thing. So yeah, and the last one. It's a pretty quick video. If I'm talking fast too, I apologize. I wouldn't say I'm nervous to make this first video. I'm just not really used to it. So if I need to slow down, let me know in the comments. But here's the last one. Overstudying. It's a big one. So like I said earlier, studying pretty much became everything that I did day in and day out. I have motorcycles too, and I love riding motorcycles. When I was first learning to trade, I spent months studying. Didn't ride my bike. Didn't really go to the gym as much. Wasn't hanging out with my family and my friends as much. I just was like, okay, I gotta study, I gotta study, I gotta study, which is like, it's like people, I totally understand why I did it, right? And if you ask some people, they're gonna say it's completely fine. And if you ask other people, they're gonna say it's not fine. But I just kind of, I, I just don't really think it benefited me sitting in front of my computer for like 7, 8 hours a day studying the same material over and over and over and over and over and over again. I would say it sped up the process to an extent, but I would say it did some, more harm than good, right? Because it didn't put me in a good mental space, right? Because, you know, when you're studying, you can only learn so much information at a time, especially if you're not giving yourself enough breaks, which I was not. Um, and overstudying can lead to just you going down like a bunch of different like rabbit holes, I guess. As you are on YouTube more, looking up strategies, right? Let's not even say that. Let's say that you have your strategy, right, and you're trying to gain more information about that strategy, right? And you're looking at a bunch of different YouTube videos. Some guy might do it a different way than you do it, right? And then you're gonna hop to the way he does it. Same fundamental strategy, but he just kind of approaches it a different way, right? As you're always trying to learn new information, right? And not trying to perfect the information that you already have, you're just going to be adding a bunch of information that isn't really necessary, right? Because you know, more isn't always better with trading, right? Less is more, and that's one thing that I've realized very quickly. Um, but yeah, overstudying definitely like just force fed me like way too much information, right, about the same thing, and it just made me want to like feel like my head was gonna explode. Um, and it's like all like relatively the same thing, right? They're all trading some sort of ICT strategy, right? Oh, like I don't trade ICT anymore, but like 2022 ICT model. I do it this way, and this way, or I use this confluence, this confluence, this confluence. And then it's like, okay, let me try that. And then you get good at doing it a certain way, and then you come across another video, and then you're like, oh, well, that guy's profitable. Let me try the way he does it. And it's like you should just be perfecting the way your mind perceives the information. Um, that's the biggest advice I can give you guys is just find something that just your mind perceives as clear as possible, and that's how you do it. Because at the end of the day, you should be given a strategy and like a package, right? Like learn a strategy from somewhere, right? And just learn that strategy well enough to where you can put your own spin on it. Because when you truly know that strategy well enough, you could fine tweak it to make it work as best as possible with the way you perceive information, right? Because I use a strategy now that was not given to me by myself. It was given to me from somebody else, but I studied the crap out of that strategy and I just kind of tweaked it to how my brain understood things, right? I didn't force my brain to work the way this dude's brain worked. I submitted to it and said, I like this strategy, but there's a few things that I could do better or understand differently, and I tweaked it to fit my needs. And that's the biggest thing you can have within trading. Just tweak things to fit your needs, because at the end of the day, the best thing you could do is just follow your rules, stay disciplined, stay motivated, and just do what you're supposed to do. And if you have something that doesn't agree with you in the inside, then how are you supposed to follow any rules? You can't. Um, but yeah, anyways, yeah, I know this was a little bit of a rant. It's my first video, so I thank you guys for listening, if anybody's listening. Um, yeah, I believe in you guys, and you guys can do it. Like, there were so many times where I felt like I wasn't gonna make it within trading, or I wanted to give up, and just don't give up. Like, just trust me. It's gonna like come around the corner and slap you in the face like faster than you think. Like, you're gonna become a funded trader and a profitable trader way faster than you think, right? It's gonna seem like it's years away or months away, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it's gonna happen. So like the last thing you want to do is give up or fall short. So I believe in all you guys, and like I said, I thank you for listening. I thank you for being here with my first video, and I know it wasn't the best quality. I know the audio is probably not very good, and this was like a one take. Yeah, so there's gonna be no cuts in it. It's probably a little bit longer than you guys would like too, but I just figured I'd get a video out there for you guys just to, I guess, start the process. And if you guys think we resonate with personalities, or you guys would like my content, like and subscribe if you want. Um, but yeah, thank you guys for being here, and just have a good day. See you.